Hello and welcome back to my channel, Designs by Dana. I'm Dana and I'm also close to my heart maker. I'm currently working through the June 30-day sketch challenge by Christie's Beautiful Life. I'm also incorporating an additional challenge for myself, and I've created this bingo card, and I've put in all kinds of different challenges and things that I'd like to incorporate throughout the month. And I took these ideas and just duplicated them into this little jar here. And what I'm doing is I'm just pulling from the jar, and then whatever I pull is something that I'm going to attempt to incorporate on the particular layout. So this one is dimensional elements. So I'm going to try to incorporate some dimensional elements in with my layout for today. So let me put that aside. I'm going to set this aside, and let's bring in the sketch that I'm working on. And I'll also bring in the photos. And in this case, I'm bringing in one photo. So this is the sketch. It was created by Kathy Price. You can see that her sketch incorporates two photos. My plan is to only use one photo. So right off the bat, I'm going to be altering the sketch a little bit and just doing one horizontal photo across the middle of the page. So let me get this out of the way. I need to kind of go back to my drawing board and think about how I'm going to incorporate the dimensional elements into my project, and we'll come back and start putting everything together. I decided to use paper from the Hey Handsome paper packet for this project, and this is a sheet I've pulled from a previous mix-in packet. So I'm using that for my base, and I'm going to do a quick dry fit here because there's very few papers that I'm actually using on this layout. And I'm just dry fitting this here, and this is all there really is to the base of the layout. Now, the challenge for the dimensional elements was a really good challenge because it made me go back and think about how I can incorporate those, and I ended up incorporating them primarily in my title here, and I really like how that turned out, and I'm glad that that challenge really made me think about how I could do that. But I thought, since I'm pulling in that paprika color a little bit more, I would pull in some more paprika color into my base page. So I'm bringing in my blending brush. I marked off my base page on where I want that ink to be kind of peeking out from under my photo there, and I'm going to ink that up. So while I'm inking that up, let me tell you a little bit about this picture. This picture is of my husband and his two brothers and one nephew taking Christmas a couple years ago. I think it was 2021. My husband is the gentleman, the second from the left, and his two brothers are on each side of him. And you'll notice the two brothers all wear hats. So I decided to pull in the baseball cap as my primary embellishment. And it's rare that these brothers are ever seen without a baseball cap on because they are, we're going to say, hair challenged. So they will always be seen with a baseball cap. And then the nephew there on the right is unfortunately also inheriting that trait. So I thought the baseball cap embellishment was a good fit for this layout. And these are the Terry men. So I picked the title Terry because, of course, that is our last name. And that's nice to see them all together. They don't all get together very often. Now for this tiny strip of paprika paper, my tip there is to put your glue on the base or whatever project you're working on instead of trying to put it on the tiny strip of paper. You can see how I'm putting it down on my scrapbook page and then putting the paper right on top of it, and it works so much easier than trying to put it on the strip. And I also cut my strip larger than what I needed, and you can see I'm just snipping that off, and it makes it so much easier than trying to work with the exact measurement size. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these down, and bonus points for anybody that can notice right off the bat how crooked that little pennant is as I've glued it down. And I'm putting my photo down, and then I realize how crooked that is. So I'm going to pull it up and bring in my T-square ruler and get that a little bit straighter. So it's nice to know that we all make those little mistakes and they can always be fixed. And then I'm going to play around with that title. And you'll notice with my picture, the person that took the photo didn't really center the people with the top of the photo. And I didn't crop that when I printed it. So I like how I was able to pull that title down and overlap it with the photo. And I think that gave it a nice little touch. Now these little baseball caps came from the limited edition stamp set and thin cut, and I should have brought that in to show you, and I didn't, so I wanted to make sure I mentioned that stamp set because it's a really cute stamp set. It's relatively new, and what I'm doing here is I'm bringing in brads. So again, I'm challenging myself to pull in some old embellishments that I haven't used recently and use up some of those things. So I put a little brad in the top of the hat, and I also cut a little piece of embellishment from that paper pack I just showed you there. And I cut a bunch of those little sentiment things out to use as my embellishments. So I'm going to play around with those and use those throughout the page here. I'm not going to spend too much time fussing around with putting them together. I'm going to do that off camera. I'm going to play around a little bit, but I won't put all those around too much on camera, and I'll do that off camera. And before I do that, I do want to show you how I did color in my dimensional elements because they do come white, or they did. And I have two markers here. These are Prismacolor Premier markers, and I found that they had a better match than my Tri-Blend. So I brought in my papers, and I found that the Harbour paper actually matched better with a warm gray. And so I picked my markers, and then I'm just coloring the edge of the dimensional element first, and then just coloring it in like I would any other item I'm coloring in. And that's all there is to it. So I'm just kind of showing you how well of a match that is. And then I'm going to do everything else off camera to kind of lay these out and get them where I want them. So here I've sped this up quite a bit, and I'm just putting everything down. I wanted to mention that I am using my Tombow mono liquid glue instead of the normal Tombow mono glue. This is essentially the same glue. It is clear. It's more gel-like than the white Tombow glue. I used it because I have it and I kind of wanted to use it up. It works the same way. It's liquid. It dries clear. I did find that I like the white glue a little bit better. It tends to dry, I think, a little faster and a little flatter. But I had this and I wanted to just get it used up, so I went ahead and pulled that in and used it. So if you're wondering the difference between the two, that's primarily the difference. Essentially, they're the same. But this one is a little bit more, I think, gel-like in my opinion. But I'm just going to finish wrapping those up. And then I decided to just add in a little bit more visual texture by putting a couple little star stamps on here. And that pretty much wraps it up. I'm going to put one more brad on that base hat. And I'm going to stick that through the entire base of the page because it's laid down flat. And that's going to finish everything up. Okay, I am so happy with how this turned out. The challenge of adding in those dimensional elements, I think, really made me think harder and develop this layout a little bit more than I probably would have. So here's the completed layout. This is my bingo board. So I've gotten 2 boxes completed, put the dimensional elements on there. I'm going to bring in the sketch here, and you can see that I deviated quite a bit from the original sketch, but again, these sketches are just meant to be a jumping off point. So it doesn't bother me that I deviated significantly, but I'm really happy with the results. I was inspired by the triangle in the corner, so I carried that out to both corners. I always love tags and dovetails, so that's always an inspiration. And the circle clusters, I thought off the bat that instead of the circles, I wanted to use the pieces from that pattern paper I showed you. So I just kind of expanded on that, pulled in the hat, and brought in those pieces. And then the challenge to bring in the dimensional elements just added to that, because I would have just left it with those pieces. But I brought in the dimensional elements that added to my title, because I wasn't real sure what I was going to do for a title until then. So that's the final layout. Of course, you know, I added lots of dimension with my pieces here. I did pull in some brads because I'm still trying to challenge myself to use up some old pieces of embellishments and just things I have in my stash that I've had for years and I just need to use up. Added a little bit of inking to add some more color to that base page. And all in all, I'm pretty pleased with it. I hope you like it too. If you did, please hit that like button. Subscribe if you're interested in subscribing to my channel, and feel free to share as well. If you have questions, let me know in the comments, and I will certainly respond to those as soon as possible. And I will continue working through the month as we go through this 30-day challenge. I hope you will join me, add comments, questions, anything you'd like to share, and we will see you soon. Have a great day. Thanks for your time. Bye.